Vegas Tabloid is the fourth book by P. Moss. That said, it's the third and final part of his Las Vegas trilogy. Following Blue Vegas and Vegas Knockout, the reader is returned to Moss's world of entertainers, sex workers, casino moguls, politicians, and criminals. I'd like to thank this video's sponsor, Dead End Bar and Grill. While known for their Detroit-style pizza, try the poutine tots. The Dead End even has vegan options. Located on Industrial, check out this beloved dive. And now, let's jump into the book. Jimmy Dot, who was introduced earlier in the trilogy, is our protagonist. He's a grifter turned ringmaster in a vaudevillian circus that's the biggest show on the strip. Now, one of the fun things about reading Moss is trying to figure out if a creation is a Moss original or if it's a reference we're supposed to get. My sense is that as we picture the Jimmy Dot Circus, we're supposed to visualize the show Absinthe. P. Moss is excellent at infusing his stories with a sense of urgency and relevance. In Vegas Tabloid, the conflict that fuels the plot is the largest mass killing in U.S. history. On a national level, the stakes couldn't be much higher, but the same could also be said for Jimmy Dot's personal life. This includes his circus troupe. While they were introduced earlier in the trilogy, this is their book, the place where we really get to know them. For me, I fell in love with Sparkle. I thought he often stole the show as he was in many of the most hilarious scenes. Interestingly enough, Killer Kong has more than a cameo in this book. And just you wait. The story has villains that you will love to hate. As with previous works, there is a steamy scene here that will stay with you long after you close the book. Despite the debauchery, this is also a sincere and powerful love story. That said, much of the book feels like a mystery. Moss's first book in this series was an anthology of short stories. His second book was a hybrid between an anthology and a novel. Vegas Tabloid is his first conventional novel, as the book follows a singular story. When you think about the trilogy this way, it helps us to appreciate how Moss is not beholden to any literary paradigm. With that said, I want a book of poetry at some point. Hey, John L. Smith did it. I can easily see Moss become Vegas's John Cooper Clarke. I digress. Let's return to the book. In the end, I believe Moss overreached in Vegas Tabloid. Instead of using the novel format to follow a primary cast of characters, the author spends a good amount of time on secondary and tertiary characters. This makes the book less muscular from a storytelling perspective. To me, it felt too busy as the complexity reduced the narrative flow. To underscore this point, it was a challenge for me just to remember the multitude of names and recall how each character connected to the story. While reading, I thought Moss was juggling so many story arcs that failure was certain and that he was going to have to leave some of the story threads in the air and probably crash land others. I was pleasantly surprised to find that Moss somehow gives every thread a picture-perfect landing, and the various subplots converge in a way I didn't imagine possible. So while overly ambitious, the story is as well designed as a Swiss watch. And don't get me wrong, despite my issue, I still love the book, and there are payoffs associated with the multitude of characters. For example, there's a tertiary character named Doll who ties up an important plot thread in a very memorable way. Before moving on, I'm happy to report that Moss fixes the ambitiousness problem in his next novel, The Houdini Killer. It's pretty close to a perfect book, so it could be argued that The Houdini Killer is where Moss's novel writing achieves full maturity. So the question beckons, do you have to read the Las Vegas trilogy in order? Obviously, it's helpful to read them in order, but I don't think they're interdependent. The connection between the books is satisfying, but it's loose enough to allow each book to be enjoyed by itself. Put another way, it's not like reading The Return of the King after skipping over The Two Towers and The Fellowship. If you want to start here, go ahead and do it. And if you're on the fence about this, go back and check out my videos on Blue Vegas and Vegas Knockout. While the book is longer than both of its predecessors combined, the mind-blowing passages that pack the first two books are scarce here. That said, here are some of the jewels. This first passage contextualizes the Jimmy Dot circus experience. Looking to nudge the circus into the public consciousness and show the world that Las Vegas entertainment was not limited to past the expiration date singers and by the numbers production schlock that spewed from the sphincter of most casino showrooms on the Strip. This next passage describes how Jimmy Dot regards his wife. This exotic beauty he adored, more than a sonnet of $1,000 words could describe, whose bewitching smile ignited each new dawn. This woman who shared his love of the Three Stooges, 3 cushion bang shots, and the 3 original varieties of Cheetos. Don't you just get the sense that the only thing they really had in common was an appreciation for the number 3? This last passage describes how a character named Bill Revson makes sense of Las Vegas. A smoker-friendly environment was just about the only thing that made sense to him in this town he still viewed as 3 exits past surreal. Moss, I am taking that. In fact, in conversation, I've already had the opportunity to describe Vegas as being 3 exits past surreal. What a great line. What does this have to do with Las Vegas? As with its preceding books, Vegas Tabloid could not be more Vegas. The sense of place here is so strong that I sometimes wonder how much of these books might be lost on someone who hasn't been in town for long. As I mentioned earlier, part of the fun is trying to figure out when a location is a pure Moss creation or a reference to an actual place in town. One of my favorite examples is Naked Lunch. In the book, this is a burger joint with topless waitresses. This blends the title of the William S. Burroughs novel with the business model used by A Little Off the Top, which was a topless hair salon. While borrowing ideas, this is ultimately a Moss original, since Vegas never had a restaurant with topless waitresses. Another example is the story's geographic anchor. Taking its name from the "Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada" sign, it's a super hotel and casino simply called The Fabulous. This is the perfect name for the greatest property on the Strip. Aside from that, it has the starship theme that I've been waiting for ever since seeing the Galaxy Hotel in the movie Mars Attacks. When coming across a PMOS geographic invention, I am often filled with an initial wave of delight that is soon followed by a wave of lament as I realize that the cleverly imagined place is now unlikely to become real since it's now his intellectual property. As sobering as it is, the realization doesn't stop me from wanting to visit the imaginary places in his books. Hey, remember, entrepreneurs, everybody's got their price. Who is this book for? Naturally, this is for those who enjoyed Blue Vegas and Vegas Tabloid. Those who frequent the Double Down Saloon and Frankie's Tiki Room, as both bars show up in this book. This book is for people who like to bet on long odds. Vegas Tabloid is for mature readers. If you are thinking of being the cool uncle by giving this to your middle school nephew for Nevada Reading Week, don't, okay? Just don't. This book is for people who like to huff ether. Finally, this is for readers who want a good mystery. Where can you get this book? This 2017 book is a departure in that PMOS left City Life Books for the newly formed Squidhat Press. Yes, Alan Carter pivoted his operation into publishing. You can get the $15 paperback or $5 ebook from most online places where books are sold. Links below. Have you read Vegas Tabloid? What did you think? While I think it's the weakest part in the trio, I still love the book and recommend the entire Las Vegas trilogy. Do you agree with me, or did I get it wrong? Do you yearn to someday eat at Naked Lunch? Do you now have doubts about the FDA? Would you like to see more videos on PMOS books? Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video and you want more, like and subscribe so that you can get notified when future videos drop. Put another way, hit those like and subscribe buttons as if they'll earn you a $10,000 hot dog. Keep it fabulous. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.